These are this afternoon's top stories. St. Kitts Nevis Special Olympics athletes meet the St. Kitts Nevis Patriots. St. Lucia faces health issues due to water shortages, and Pope Francis holds last mass in Ecuador. Good afternoon. Welcome to the ZIZ Midday newscast. Today is Wednesday, 8th July 2015. I am Nisha David. In national developments, athletes of the St. Kitts Nevis Special Olympics team were given the opportunity to meet the members of the St. Kitts Nevis Patriots on Tuesday. The lone Kittitian on the team, Jace Taylor, said it is important for athletes to support each other.
It's been a pleasure having these youngsters coming around and sharing our expertise with them in whichever sporting department, whether it be tennis, football, bocce, swimming and athletics. It's good that we could give support to these guys from a sporting standpoint.
The meet and greet comes ahead of the young athletes' participation in the 2015 Special Olympics World Games. Taylor took the opportunity to pledge the Patriot support of the team.
It's nice that St. Kitts Patriots can actually meet some of the Special Olympics before they head off to their tournament in Florida. We wish them all the best, and our support is with them all the way throughout.
The St. Kitts Nevis Special Olympics team will travel to Los Angeles, California for the World Games slated for July 25th to August 2nd. The University of the West Indies Open Campus will host a summer camp over the next 2 months for secondary school children who will be entering the 5th form and are preparing for CXC exams. The first camp begins on July 20th and aims to help students improve their knowledge of a number of subjects such as English, mathematics, social studies, and Spanish. ZIZ spoke with Program Officer at the University Open Campus, Cicely Jacobs, who emphasized that students can anticipate a unique learning experience.
You'll come to the center, that is our site in the Gardens Bastille. You'll come there four times a week. 4 days, Monday to Thursday from 9 to 12, and do the subjects there. It's not going to be your usual school at all. Our facilitators are going to be fun, exciting and interactive, and they're going to be concentrating on going through past papers with you. I think these are techniques. They will be able to teach you techniques to master those questions and ace that exam come next year.
The university also intends to accommodate other secondary school students through its second camp dubbed Teen Vacation Program. Jacobs said it's a series of workshops aimed at heightening the personal development of teenagers, targeting those between the ages of 12 and 15.
Personal development of teenagers. So we're targeting 12 to 15-year-olds. We're going to introduce them to new skills like origami, yoga. We're going to talk about age-appropriate issues, like, we want to talk about sex. We want to know we want to build our self-esteem. And at the end of these workshops, at this camp, we have often found the teenagers function much better. They're much more self-assured. And when the last time we ran it, we had persons calling, next year, I'm coming next year. So I'm sure this will happen again this year.
Interested persons are urged to call the university at 465-2190. Visit the open campus at Fortlands or email saint.kits@open.ue.edu for further details. The Wesleyan Holiness Church Bastille, through its outreach program Operation Save Our Youth, has received funding from the European Union to implement a project targeting youth at risk in camps and Shadwell communities. The main components of the project include a homework program that would help students at the primary and high school levels with homework assistance, 8 hours per week, a community-based violence prevention program that will seek to reduce high-risk behaviors and improve emotional intelligence, and a nutrition education. According to a release, organizers plan to assign each participant an adult volunteer mentor who will meet with them one-on-one at least once every 2 weeks during the life of the program. Mentors will help participants address issues about school, develop or sustain coping and attention skills that may help them adjust to school structure and expectations. Through careful recruitment, screening, and assignment of mentors, it is hoped and anticipated that mentor-mentee matches will be successful, that the relationship will last through and possibly beyond the life of the project. Regionally in St. Lucia, the water and storage company Wasco continues to ration water to cope with the 2015 drought. Health officials are urging members of the public to be on their guard as the risk of water and foodborne illnesses are much greater at this time. Alison Kentish has more in this story.
These days, for many people, water is a scarce commodity. It is a public health concern, as water shortages often lead to poor sanitation, which is linked to the transmission of illnesses such as cholera, diarrhea, and gastroenteritis. Senior Medical Officer Infectious Diseases Dr. Alicia Eugene says the fact is, when there is less water to go around, important sanitation measures are often sacrificed.
They may also use the toilet and not wash their hands. This also influences on how they wash the wares, the dishes, the cups, your utensils. They may not wash it as clean as they're supposed to because of a lack of water. When you have people persons not washing their hands before they eat, or they use the toilet and they don't wash their hands with soap and water, or utensils, cups, dishes are not washed the proper way, you increase your chances of having gastroenteritis infections. And gastroenteritis is you're going to get your vomiting, your diarrhea, your fever, and your abdominal pains.
Dr. Eugene is also urging the public to adopt proper water storage practices.
First of all, the container has to be clean. If the container is not clean and you store water in there, you're going to infect yourself when you consume that water. But you must also take into consideration that the water, if it's stored and it's not covered, then you create a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Now we all know Aedes aegypti mosquito is there, and it's a vector or it's a carrier for viruses such as the dengue virus and also for the chikungunya virus.
The Health Ministry launched Vector Awareness Week last week. Dr. Eugene says officials hope the message will continue to impact people and change behaviors long after the week has ended. She says proper hygiene and sanitation must remain priority despite the harsh reality of rationing scarce resources. Alison Kentish, HDS News Force.
The director of the Pan-American Health Organization, PAHO, Dr. Carissa Etienne, has warned that Dominica is sitting on an erupting volcano with regards to non-communicable diseases and warned the authorities to move quickly to deal with a possible tsunami of chronic diseases. Dr. Etienne said they have some startling statistics in Dominica. She said, for every 3 persons, 1 has high blood pressure. For every 5 persons in Dominica, 1 has diabetes. For every 4 persons, 1 has high cholesterol. For every 2 persons, 1 is overweight or obese. Internationally, Pope Francis has spoken out against war and called on Catholics to unite wherever they face persecution. He was speaking on the last full day of his visit to Ecuador, where he held Mass for more than 1 million people in the capital. Al Jazeera's Lucia Newman.
Hundreds and thousands of pilgrims had braved the cold and rain overnight to better see and hear the Pope. Many seeking more than just spiritual guidance. There were Colombians internally displaced by decades of civil war who came to Ecuador to thank the Pope for his offer to help mediate in their conflict.
We need peace and ends to the violence.
The Pope spoke out forcefully against war and violence that's ravaging not just parts of Latin America, but the world, in a clear allusion to ISIL, which has executed scores of Christians.
While in the world, especially in some countries, various forms of war and conflict reappear, we Christians insist on our proposal to recognize the other, to heal injuries, to construct bridges, to strengthen ties.
But Pope Francis also directed criticism at regional leaders, warning against personalized leadership, thirst for power, and the exclusion of those who think differently. Ecuador's President Rafael Correa, for example, has been the target of mass protests in recent months against plans for steep tax hikes. and Correa's repeated attempts to show that he and the Pope see eye to eye on distribution of wealth have angered opponents.
It's a truce during the stay of the Pope. But I think that next Wednesday, when he leaves, probably demonstrations will be again on the streets.
Which is why the Pope spoke out over and over about unity and the need for dialogue in a Latin America increasingly polarized along ideological lines. In Ecuador, Pope Francis has been speaking for the first time in his own language, in his own continent.
But what's particularly noteworthy is that unlike the millions who went to see the Pope during Catholic Youth Week in Brazil, a large percentage of the people here are those whom the Pope says are perpetually relegated to the periphery, the poor, the indigenous, and the old.
The same people whom he says are the greatest victims of violence, intolerance, and abuse of political and economic power. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, Quito.
Thousands of survivors of Nepal's earthquake in April are now facing another potential disaster. Monsoon rains have triggered landslides in mountainous areas where people have been living in makeshift camps. Al Jazeera's Sabina Shrestha reports.
In Dhading district's headquarters, colorful tents dot the hills. Every bit of flat land has been occupied here. Every few days, another tented camp pops up nearby. Rambadur Tamang walked 3 days with his 6 children from his village of Lapa to Dhading Bazaar.
There have been massive landslides in our neighboring villages. In our village, rocks have started to fall. Now it's no longer possible to go back to our village.
Some corrugated iron sheets are being distributed, but it's not enough to go around all. Most survive beneath these tarps. But Rambadur says that he's not even worried about that.
13 households are still up in our village. They haven't been able to abandon their livestock. They are looking after their fields, harvesting crops. Some 50-60 active villagers are still up there. For those of us who have moved down, we'll survive anyhow. But those in the village, how will they survive the rains and the landslides?
More than 500 people have moved to this tented camp, living off handouts, and more people are on their way. Just in this district alone, more than 2,500 people need to be resettled.
According to the government, 66,000 people from 18 districts have to be resettled. The district government has been told that they need to start the resettlement process by the 15th of July.
Our main challenge in this emergency is lack of resources. We have estimated the budget in the work plan. 6 months' expenses for each family will be around $3,240, including food, accommodation, clothing, electricity, water and sanitation. We need around $500,000 for the resettlement of the total proposed population.
The district government hopes that the budget needed will be swiftly handed over.
And now the weather. Today will be partly cloudy and slightly hazy with a slight chance of brief passing showers. Tonight will bring partly cloudy to cloudy and light, slightly hazy with a slight chance of brief passing showers. Temperatures will reach a high of 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Sunset today will be at 6:49 p.m. while sunrise tomorrow will be at 5:43 a.m. That brings us to the end of this ZIZ Midday newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nisha David.